Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Claudia Anrig. I am maybe what one would call Queen Bee, pediatrics and prenatal chiropractic. You may know me from my first, second, or third edition of the textbook Pediatric Chiropractic, and we're just super excited about this development here and something that's available for our profession. I want to thank ChiroSecure. It's what a wonderful opportunity to share with amongst my colleagues and my topic today that I'm going to be talking about is called the fourth trimester wellness care. And so we're going to go to our slides at this time. One of my favorite books is Real Food for Pregnancy. I love that book. Lily Nichols has done a really great job of it. What's unique about Lily's work, she's a nutritionist that went up against all the dietitians and nutritionists in the US. And her work was so clean and so well documented that now she's becoming kind of the Bible when it comes to prenatal and postnatal eating. So that should be a book good in your lending library and good for the docs to read for themselves. One of the areas that needs to be built up is and again, I'm a fan of any kind of bone broth. I think that in preconception, first, second, third trimester, all women should be drinking bone broth as a part of their daily activity. But we need to figure out how to get the collagen building amino acids in their systems. We need to get their electrolytes up, and whether it's from soups, hearty stews, or curries, this is something very easy to, and also to what it could be pre-prepped, it can be frozen and then pulled out. This is one of the easiest things you could do. And this is where, this everybody with their crock pots, you could have two or three crock pots going on at the same time. Yeah, you could have a food party, and invite all your friends to come over. You could even be prepping it in your third trimester. Everybody brings over the crock pot, come up with the 10, 15 recipes you need for your family, and everybody sits together, chops up stuff. Everybody but the pregnant mom can have a glass of wine, and you basically prep food, over 2, 3, 4 hour period. You could prep almost a month in some ways, just having a prep party, just something fun to do for someone. Another one is high iron. Again, iron deficiency is really frightening. And so again, it would be the slow cooked meats. So that's going to come from pot roast, pulled pork, and so forth. But we got to keep our gals' irons up. It's healthier for restoring their body and health and well-being. Another area again with when it comes with iron, liver is it's just a fabulous resource of it. Again, generationally, the last two generations they're growing up. It used to be a time, if you talk to somebody who is 40, 50, 60 years old, often they're at their family at least once a week or once a month. People would fry a liver with, I think it was onions and so forth, because the culture knew that you need to have the iron in the body and so forth. But in our culture today, unless you're certain cultures that they do eat continued liver on a weekly basis, we lack it in most of our North American diets. So you could, get like a liver pate, kind of camouflage it with veggies, or camouflage it with some crackers, with some put in a bed of lettuce. That's a good way of doing it. But again, legumes, red meats, broccoli, pumpkin seeds. Now with the broccoli, right? I got to be careful. It's like a Brussels sprouts. It could, a cauliflower that could it cause indigestion, affect the baby's breast milk. So if she can tolerate, great. If the baby can tolerate, great. And then a dark turkey meat is another place that we could find it. Docs, fat, more fat, and one more time, a little bit more fat on it. I'm just a fan of butter. I think they should slap that butter everywhere they can, butter up everything. Our women have gone such an extreme. Oh, we can't do this, we can't do that. Be fat free. And what happens when we were sugar free, fat free? Everybody became more fatter in North America. And if you go to Europe, I travel a lot back to Europe because of my family connections in Switzerland. And everybody, nobody's overweight. Everybody does a lot of walking. They eat a lot of healthy butter fat. They're just a healthier, and they just eat a balance of stuff. Their portions are smaller out there, but fat is a part of their diet. The pork, fatty fish, nuts, and seeds. So we just need to just be mindful of using the fat in their diet. Also, two omega-3s, and of course, eggs, grass-fed beef, and seafood. And honestly, a person could have at least 2 to 4 eggs in a day. They could do soft boiled eggs, whatever, that scrambled egg. But another one is hard boiled eggs. I have my women just boil a half a dozen to a dozen hard boiled eggs for the week, and then that way, if they don't have time to get a protein, they can grab that hard boiled egg. At least there's some protein getting into their body, as well as the omega 3s. Doctors, another thing that we need to do is more iodine, and it's lacking because we don't necessarily eat all these foods. So again, the roasted nori, that's always easy. That could be a grabbing food, very easy to get a hold of, and just have the sheets of it right there. So or put those in the Ziploc bags, have it prepped for them, and so that they could just like we said, grab go food, thinking simplicity and so forth. Of course, cod, dairy, and again with cod and other products like that, this is where again it's better to eat as a whole food. But many of you may be working with a great supplement company that you would say, okay, if they won't eat this, all right, then we're going to support you, but you should supplement this way as well. Egg yolks and so forth. And a lot of times people are, it's really odd, they think they still in this day and age have to eat egg whites. No, the way God designed it, it's the yolk and the white go together. They're not supposed to be separated, because you get something good from each one of them. Shrimp, tuna, and of course, when in doubt, if somebody's having some issue, dried prunes is another great way of getting the iodine into our individuals' bodies and so forth. And then sometimes we think about, oh, we should eat a lot of veggies, but I think using soften the veggies by steaming and so forth, or maybe in some cases sauteing it in a butter so they get the butter and the veggie in there, because you need the fiber, all that roughage to go through the system. But sometimes if you go raw, it's just too much for the digestive tract. It might actually upset the breast milk. And so it'd be better to try steaming it, softening it, easier for her to digest it. Another area too is we got to get back into the healthy carbs. Their blood sugar might go up and down a little bit. And, what do we do with it? And so, whether it's oatmeal or certain kinds of rices or sweet potatoes, let them know if those would be the healthy carbs to go to. Not the junk food. And by the way, when we talk about that's not rice cakes. It should be rice itself, not anything that's been processed beyond already just the cleaning of a grain. You don't want to have it over processed as well. But the healthy carbs, and they should have it throughout the day a little bit. So when they're starving, they go into like starving mode. That's because their blood sugar has dropped down, or their energy is dropping down, or they get really crabby or moody, blood sugar going down. If they could just sneak in a little carb throughout the day, get a tablespoon of rice or just a tablespoon of sweet potato. It's not a half a sweet potato. It's taking the portions, and I call it grazing. You're grazing with it throughout the entire day. So this is just some food for thought there. And of course, beyond just water, postnatally, what could we do? And a lot of times, these women are walking around with these big water jugs, and it's just, and sometimes people get tired just drinking water. And so please fall back on any kind of warm liquids, and then that could be your bone broth as well. So broth, and then it's because sometimes you can just put something else in there that is broth and maybe a little food in there, but it keeps them hydrated. And I love the teas, any of the chamomile teas, peppermint tea if they need a little energy. Look into the tea family there. I would avoid anything with caffeine. So green tea I would avoid. I would avoid black teas or anything that would, again, we don't need to add caffeine if we're breastfeeding. So that's just, again, thoughts that you want to share. A simple thing you can ask for your women to do. And we talked about this in a previous podcast. It's just write down the things, how you eat and drink for a week, and then have them bring that back. It's not so much the quantity, it's the quality of their eating style. And if you could just follow their patterns a little bit, doctors, that will give you an idea how to coach them, how to mentor them into a better eating, even before they give birth. And then who's their postpartum team? Man, everybody worked all the way up to delivery, like the OBs, like maybe the post, op visit and so forth, or the midwives doing the follow up. And sometimes the doulas are having some follow up, but who's really going to be there in a month from now? Who's going to be there in 2 months from now? And I just think a postpartum team is really important. Look, if somebody has a midwife and you're in an area there's not a lot of doulas, why don't you hire her to work another month, the 2 months with you? I mean, she's been with you all this time who better to help you or just to support you emotionally and physically, but to hire your midwife to go a little longer. I mean, it wouldn't be that much more expensive, and she's already has a built-in relationship with you. Even you could even teleconference with her, but just getting that kind of support. And any of you who has a doula, one of the things that you could do is hire her to stay on again another couple of months. And with even doulas, it's kind of affordable. It's not that much more expensive because they're more for the pregnancy, but and there's now a growing area of postpartum doulas. So they're there for the fourth trimester. So there's a growing industry there with doulas who will take on after the baby's born, coaching them and having a healthier post birth, helping the mom and baby bond and so forth. So please, if you can see if you have any postpartum doulas in your community, get to know them so you can create a referral sheet for them so you can pass that great information to others. Docs, what we want to do is again retention, and we're not talking a couple weeks. I think minimally at least 2 months. So when they're back on their feet and so forth, that would be so helpful. And by the way, when you would have somebody like this as a part of their team, this will diminish because there's going to be emotional assistance because they're not a family member giving advice. It's somebody who's worked with babies and moms and so forth. She's going to, and so there's the emotional, and there's a kind of a third person. It's the intelligence part of it, the confidence that she's going to give. So that's why this will decrease the likelihood of postpartum depression because she's got all that support around, or somebody, like I said, the go-to person too. And then what if you get a kind of a hiccup when it comes to breastfeeding? What's your breastfeeding plan? Who's your expert? Do you have a lactation specialist signed up? And not just somebody who quote unquote comes from the hospital. They barely have time to even get to know your baby's first name. Who's your backup? Talk to the midwives, talk to the doulas, find if there's somebody separately that could be hired. So if there's any issues with that, you would have somebody on your team as well. And then once again, as we go into the postpartum stage of it, who is going to be the expert leading into all this? Who's going to check the baby out for the tongue tie? Is a pediatrician qualified to do it? Sometimes they kind of miss tongue, lip, cheek tie. So who's going to check it? Typically midwives are very good at it. So if they're part of the team, so maybe the midwife will be doing the checking. What if you're concerned and they don't have any support? Is there a pediatric dentist who does the revision? Would that be worth the consult? So who come up with a team who's doing the tongue tie check? If any of you have been to any of our seminars and so forth, or you have the textbook, we have a beautiful chapter on tongue tie and a second chapter on breastfeeding and so forth. But often the chiropractor, you can just put a glove on and you sweep the mouth and you get to see if there's a tightness there. So you might feel like, hey, you know what, I'm proficient in there. I feel like I could do an evaluation and at least maybe let them know, yes, rule it in or rule it out for them. So it might be something that you would offer to do. And are they ready for postpartum chiropractic care? We need it. I mean, as soon as they can get driven to the office, these babies, the moms need to get checked because it's almost like their pelvis, right, has gone through a rodeo. And so we need to have a post checkup, and you have to let them know you are so important. That's why I say you're so important. You just will give them birth, and you're going to think that baby is most important, but your recovery is most important. So this is the key thing. Who's going to be your driver? I need a person, or give me two. I want to know who's on the accountability list. They're going to drive you over, and we'll plan a time where it'll be quiet at the office. That you can come through the back door or whatever you want to do, but you quietly come over. We know some of our chiropractors, right? They'll actually do a home visit. Hey, whatever suits you, but I want to know who's the driver, who's going to drive you there. I always have that conversation in the third trimester. Who's our driver? I want driver one. I want driver two. Because as soon as you can get out of the home, I want to be checking you so your recovery is that much faster. And again, we know this from my fellow chiropractors, the ones that you have done this in the past. You know the women who don't come in and they wait a month or two versus the ones who come almost immediately afterwards. The two groups are very different. She who comes in right after the birth of their babies do a lot better than the ones who wait a month or two. And then a lot of that group too, postpartum depression tied into it. And then we got to line up this baby's first checkup. Okay. So, I mean, baby, baby boy or baby girl needs to, I tell my parents, I'm sending you home with the paperwork in advance, and particularly if the parent doesn't know if it's a boy or a girl. And I said, baby James, if that's a family's last name, we have everything ready for baby. We just need to have this front and back page filled out, and we're going to set up. We are ready within hours to see your newborn baby, and so almost plan that the baby's already a new patient before they give birth. Plan, okay, baby James is going to, we're going to have him check. So we'd like to check them within the first week to 2-3 weeks of their birth. And by the way, all you have to do is once you get a driver, let us know and we will work your baby in. Be flexible. That's what first time moms need, is that flexibility from their chiropractor. And then also to talk to them about the power of the first adjustment. There's nothing more powerful when we get to lay our hands on that newborn that has a subluxation. And even if whether the baby's in the wrong position, in utero constraint, or the baby goes through the birth process and there's a little spraining that goes on, it can certainly happen. Docs, one of the things that we need to do is to talk to them how important, first show them over and over again. We just gently touch the baby here. We do some gentle touching here. If we find that there's a restriction, then we gently adjust that area at putting the motion back into the joint, and it'll calm all your baby's nerves down. We should be talking about what moms and dads report back. And for anybody that's out there, it's my generations client, 6 signs of subluxation, right? What we can do is we help with colic and reflux, constipation, sleeping, feeding becomes easier, better tummy time, just a calmer, happier baby, and so forth. And so we just let them know we want your baby to have the presence of all of that and not be stressed out whatsoever. And so that's how we get back to them. And then there's another team member that we should, every woman should probably have a post check, and it's a pelvic floor physical therapist. I think that would be so important for everybody. So you need to, if you don't have somebody in your community, find somebody in the town over or city over, because we need our women to, if we were in certain countries like in France, that's a part of their postpartum care, is to see a postpartum pelvic floor physical therapist. And so the quality of the function, restoring tissue health down below through exercises and so forth. And so do you have somebody that you can refer to them so the recovery might be a little bit more smoother for them? And then there's a point of encouraging to go back to exercise. And then maybe the first 40 days, that would be too early. And so, but we have to encourage them, because sometimes they'll get such out of routine of exercise that it might take 6 months or a year to get back. And then again, we know that exercising is so important to prevent also postpartum depression. Walking, one of the easiest things you could ever get her back to do. Just again, walk out 10 minutes. This is my easiest plan I've been teaching for decades. Walk out 10. And I always just tell my patients, just go, all I need you to walk 10 minutes in one direction. And of course, they're going to come back 10. It's a 20-minute walk. I said, let's just start with walk out 10, come back 10. And then you see, if her mind can wrap around that, I can do that. And then you could do 2 walks at 10 and 10. And so all of a sudden 20 minutes becomes 40 minutes, or the 10-minute walk becomes 15, which is a half hour. But start supporting them with the walking program. I think that is really super important. It's just good for body movement, circulation, and so forth. And I think we have to be really careful. Some women jump right back in. They want to be physical fit. They want to jump into abdominal exercises to flatten their tummy. And I think you should actually be calmer there. I think to do abdominal exercises right after giving birth is a huge mistake. I think you should wait typically a couple months before you would do that. That's my personal opinion. I've watched women do one way or the other. The ones who waited, I thought, did better than the ones who try to jump in doing the abdominal exercises as well. Another thing that we can encourage them to do is with 3-pound weights, 5-pound weights, work with their bicep, triceps, chest, and back, easy enough to do. And then I'm a big fan of wall push-ups. Now, if you do your fingers up in wall push-ups, that's more really your biceps. But a good one for chest and back is fingers point to each other and doing the wall push-ups like that. And so just a simple thing like that they could do at in their home that would require, but just a few moments when the baby's down for a nap. And I just say, when somebody comes home, go walk out 10, come back 10. So I've just now got a 20-minute walk in between feedings or the baby's breast, do wall push-ups, use your weights a little bit. And if the body's in motion and so forth, it's just going to be really just a helpful tool to have. And then of course, who do they talk about for their workout? Is their midwife, doula? Typically by now the OB could care less, so the OB is not going to be involved with it. Or it could be the person to talk about it would be us, the chiropractor. So who better than us if we start with preconception care, if we started with prenatal and then postnatal. We're with this family for a year and a half up to 2 years, this whole process beginning to happen. So who better than us? And I just wanted to thank again ChiroSecure for this opportunity just to share with everybody, just that opportunity of just caring for others, caring for our community, for us to make that kind of a difference. So again, thank you, ChiroSecure, and you can check me out at drclaudiaanrig.com. Check out my seminars. I have a wonderful mentoring program called Generations, where we just do everything turnkey to grow a family practice. And typically within under 2 years, we have everybody being basically the number one family wellness practice in their community. So check out Generations.
Today's pediatric show, Look to the Children, was brought to you by ChiroSecure.